Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, whoever you want to be the Steelers quarterback, what must they do better? What must Arthur Smith dial up better for this passing offense to just achieve the balance that they've been trying to get so that this offense can get back on track? We talk about that, the run offense, and no Derrick Harmons. Is that a big problem coming up against the Ravens? All here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter with Nick Farabaugh. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And a reminder, the Locked On Steelers podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. As said before, we're joined by the man himself, Nick Farabaugh. He's back here from PennLive.com, their Steelers reporter there. Nick, want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. I want to talk about this passing attack. They haven't been throwing the ball downfield successfully. They've tried here and there. And the things that I look at when I look at on film and the things that aren't working, there's times where, Aaron Rodgers vocalized after the game that Johnny Smith ran the wrong route on a second down play that could have been a touchdown, at one point in the game in the second quarter. We've talked about how, Aaron Rodgers admitted he missed Roman Wilson on a deep ball. There were times we looked at and I talked about how DK Metcalf's been breaking open and no one's been giving him the looks. And there's just been a lack of synergy in this passing game. And that wasn't a problem for most of the first half of the season. And Nick, some people thought it was Mason Rudolph. He had his game in and he looked pretty bad as well. Some people say, just give Will Howard a chance. But I wanted to ask you, Nick, what actual thing can the Steelers do to get this passing attack going right now?
Honestly, Chris, it's kind of tough to pinpoint what they can do. It's like really that bad. Like what they do well is their screen game is pretty good and they do some quick underneath stuff. And I mean, honestly, I think that's just kind of what you have to do is lean into what you do well to establish a rhythm, because everything with this offense has not been able to get into a rhythm. But the issue is it's not just one thing. Like, there are going to be people that are like, it's Rodgers and Rudolph and it's a quarterback only problem. It's not though. The play calling at times has certainly, I don't think, put them in an easy position. The quarterbacks have turned down throws. The receivers have dropped some passes. There have been some really badly run routes. There have been miscommunications. Like, it's not one thing, right? It's the quarterbacks, it's the receivers, it's the play caller. It's all wrapped into one, and it's all variable, different plays. Like, there are some plays, boom, the play call's there, the routes run perfectly, and then, for example, like on that mesh play where Rodgers tries to fit it to Metcalf when Jonnu wipes open on the other side. And I know kind of in the mesh concepts, especially when running mesh rail like they were, you look for the wheel to the running back, then that front side mesh route, and then kind of the curl behind it. But when you're that wide open, man, I mean, you're staring right at Jonnu coming wide open. You just got to rip it, I think. And it's an adjustment I think a 4-time MVP can make. But then you talk about, the miscommunication with Jonnu running the wrong route. There's other routes on tape that I thought were poorly run. It's hard to kind of pinpoint how you get a downfield passing attack going because there have been things drawn up. I would say the one, maybe two things I would point to. I would lean more into motion. I think they could utilize a little more motion, try to get guys on the move, create more natural picks, create a little more traffic, utilize the speed they have at receiver to try and get these guys free. I think that is something they can use. But Rodgers, generally throughout his career has not loved utilizing motion. And then the one game they had, I believe the one game they had Mason last week, 7th in the league in motion last week. And then throughout the rest of the season, I think they're like 27th.
Oh, my thunder there.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. And the other thing is I think they can utilize some more play action concepts, but I also realized that Rodgers has been a little bit tense off these play action. I mean, he had an open player. If you go back to the strip sack, like he did have an
Yeah.
open player that he turned down, and it was he turned down Darnell Washington on a kind of in route earlier in the game off play action, so it's kind of hard to even see that being the thing. So I don't know. I guess leaning more into motion, trying to build your rapport through the underneath stuff, try and hit it over the top, but it's in a sad state of affairs right now, Chris.
No, I'm right with you. And you kind of stole my thunder there. Is that I thought that they did some of those pick plays, some of those things that get natural guys open with DK Metcalf. And I thought that there was a lesson to learn from there. Okay, do that just with Aaron Rodgers and tell Aaron Rodgers to hit that, because Mason Rudolph did. And I thought that was a big reason why they lost the Bears game. There were other reasons. It wasn't the reason, but there were wide open opportunities to hit your number one wide receiver in stride with space to go. And that's where DK Metcalf is at his most dangerous. That's why you went and got that guy. And then your quarterback doesn't even try to get him the ball in that situation. And to me, that's an issue. And I think that there are fixable things you can do here. And again, this offense does not need to be top 10. This passing offense doesn't need to be elite. It just needs to be good enough to possess the football. I do think, and we'll talk more about this, maybe a little bit here. But when I went back and looked at it, there were certain things the Steelers defense could have done better in the first half, but by and large, they had that game contained. And they still only allowed 19 points to a Josh Allen-led offense in this game. That's not to say that they were fine throughout, because they did get bullied in the second half. But I truly believe, Nick, if the offense possesses the ball for considerably more than the 9 minutes than they had it leading into the fourth quarter, the defense isn't as tired. They make less mental mistakes. Guys aren't looking as whipped in the fourth quarter, and maybe they do make some more plays, and maybe you actually give them more of a lead to protect. And in fact, the only lead you gave them was seven points, and then you gave it away on the first play of the second half. So I look at this and I think these are very fixable things. These are not impossible asks of Aaron Rodgers, nor was it impossible ask of Mason Rudolph. But I look at these things and I think this is very fixable stuff. And I think that Arthur Smith has called plays that can get it. I think it's going to take, though, this offense coming together. Roman Wilson revealed to us on Monday that the pass catchers, tight ends, and the like, are meet up with Rodgers weekly at his house. And our colleague Jerry Dulac pointed out that they made a birthday cake for him yesterday, since it was his 42nd birthday at his house for one of those meetups. And Aaron Rodgers talked about how important those were. You're kind of calling out Johnny Smith for not running the right route and being alert for the certain checks in certain situations. But Nick, I just think that there's a chance here. Again, you don't need this offense to turn into elite all of a sudden, but to hit on a few explosive plays would do so much for what this offense is really trying to do, which is just use a balanced attack to be formidable.
And they have to have some respect for the passing game on the defensive side of the ball, because we'll get into this in a little bit, but a big part of the reason the run game struggled in this game is the Bills just sold out to stop it. Like, they sent corner blitzes, run blitzes, things that showed nothing of respect to the Steelers passing game, and clearly they were rewarded for it. The Steelers could not pass the football at all. It didn't matter really what level of the field they were thrown to. If it wasn't at or behind the line of scrimmage against the Bills outside of one drive, the Steelers were like dead in the water throwing the football. And there are certainly things that are fixable. You talked about getting it on the move. I mean, it just feels like right now, Rodgers, when he's playing, is kind of locked into a one read thing. Like, he locks in on one read, and if he doesn't, he kind of runs around the pocket and he either dirts it, takes a sack, takes a hit. If that clock, one thing I will say, when the time to throw a clock gets to 3 seconds and more, bad things happen. Bad things happen. You have to keep Rodgers kind of on schedule and just let him rip it quick. So if you're going to get explosives, you think about the crossers off motion, you think about the real quick seam balls, like you think about things that can get down the field, but maybe don't require you to stand in there super long and require him to get hit. Because that's one thing I think when you watch the tape, that's the biggest thing that sticks out to me about Aaron Rodgers' tape this year. He does not want to get hit. And sometimes his actual kind of play, because he doesn't want to get hit and he hunts for the big play, it actually leads him to getting hit sometimes. And so there's some questions there. I think the pressure to sack ratio right now is insane. Like they've allowed 77 pressures this year, Chris, 20 sacks. That's a lot of sacks on that much. That's not many pressures given up. The O-line's actually not been bad pass pro wise at all this year.
Yeah,
It's just
which is kind of
been
funny.
bad. It's been bad, right? Just bad pressure to sack ratio.
Yeah.
So they got to find a way to get this rhythm established. Something down the field, whether it is those seam balls, those crossers off motion, and they got to make sure that Aaron Rodgers or Mason Ruff, whoever is in the game, just has conviction and is willing to throw those middle of the field balls because they're actually there more than you would think if you don't watch the film.
I agree. I know we're kind of remiss here by doing this towards the end of the segment, but I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the team adding Adam Thielen. He's 35 years old, so it's not exactly. So a lot of people are like, "Why another old guy?" But is this going to be a Marquez Valdez-Scantling where he's just going to sit on the practice squad or just not be used, or do you think he can actually be a threat in what the Steelers are trying to do right now?
I don't know if I'll call him a threat. I think he can be a part of it. It is funny. I will say this. It is kind of funny that they released 34-year-old Darius Slay and somehow got older. I can't.
It is categorically hilarious.
It is. It is. Especially, when you just consider the entire team's offseason. And it just feels like that. Now, Thielen this year has been passed up on the Vikings depth chart. It hasn't really come. I think he's like 5 catches for like 68 yards. It's not. There's nothing incredible about that. He is big. He is physical. I think that gives them something that they don't have. He's a savvy veteran that can win underneath, so I understand it. Am I anticipating this being some just offensive changing move? No, I guess it gives them more depth outside of DK Metcalf and Ben Skowronek. One thing I think it could help with, because Thielen is a willing blocker and is a guy that's willing to block, is when Ben Skowronek comes in the game, it's like a key for every defense ever that it's going to be a run play. Even on the rare occasions where Skowronek catches like a crosser for 19 yards, teams just whatever. You do it once every like 4 games, teams are just going to play the run. I think for Thielen, it's not as much of a tell. So I think they can maybe get some bigger receivers in there with DK and him there to where they can maybe be a little more dynamic and mix up the run to pass. Like their play action game can become a little more potent through that, I think. I don't think it's some huge changing move, but it gives them some depth and at least gives them an opportunity to get someone else out there that hasn't been here, especially if he can just be a steady hand that, has good hands, is maybe understanding what Aaron Rodgers wants because he's a veteran and he kind of understands these hand signals and the intricate stuff that he wants in terms of route depth and this and that. There could be some positives there, but I'm really not anticipating this being like some crazy change. I think he'll play, but I'm not anticipating this being the season-saving move or anything.
No, I don't think it's going to be season saving either. I actually think this is going to be. I think it's along the lines of Mike Williams. It's a nice addition of a guy who can add, but you got to use him. And I don't think that he's not going to be the straw that stirs the drink. He's going to be an extra flavor added to your arsenal here. But there's going to be other structural things that need to happen for that to be an effective thing that changes your season. And again, I think it comes down to the execution at the quarterback position before anything else. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the run game and how that intertwines with what we're talking about there. Why did it stall against one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL? Is the line? Is it the running backs? Is it the concept? It is all three. We'll talk about that with Nick Farabaugh here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, remind you, this show is also brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before you even gift it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos will enjoy this because they give you endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos that you can upload through the Aura app. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed, just a huge win for you as the gift getter. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter. using promo code LOCKEDON, locked on, all capital letters, all one word. You can use that at checkout and you'll get your discount. That's AURA frames.com. Promo code locked on. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get in before the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Nick, let's talk about this rushing offense. It was very underwhelming in this game that it did not take off a bit more than it did. And you can kind of see that by Jaylen Warren, 10 carries, 35 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 5 carries, 20 yards. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell was fine at 4 yards per carry. Is right around the rate that you want. And granted, some of it was also the offense just didn't possess the ball long enough. It didn't get things going. But, Nick, one thing that Aaron Rodgers, I think, pointed out, and Mike Tomlin talks about this too sometimes, is not everyone blocking where they need to. They talked about the 3rd and 9 run, which he says was called. I still think that's kind of interesting that they called a 3rd and 9 run, but he said that, hey, it was there if we blocked it up, and we wouldn't be talking about it if we had just blocked the guys that we had lined up on that play. But when you look at the whole of why things didn't work in the run game and when things don't work in the run game with this rushing offense, what is the biggest thing you're pointing to? Is it the line and how young they are and the lack of chemistry? Is it the running backs? Maybe they're not feeling the line, or is it just the general approach that Arthur Smith has to how they want to operate this run game?
Well, in this game, I thought there were a few things. I thought, as I mentioned, I thought the Bills set some interesting blitzes. They blitzed the corner a lot, so there was always an unaccounted guy on the edge, which I thought hurt a lot. I thought the pistol stuff was just weirdly timed. Like, it didn't feel like it was synced up. The handoff to the running back lane to the blocks, everything felt a second off. And if you know how important that is to zone schemes, you would understand why. I thought they ran much better out of the gun than out of pistol. And so I think that's something to think about just in terms of timing. I think in general, when they struggle, I think there's two things. I do think to some degree the offensive line and tight ends have struggled. I think the utilization of Jonnu Smith in particular has been very weird. There's one toss play early on in the game where if Jonnu can just get the corner, just even sealed out a little bit, Fautanu can actually climb through, get to the linebacker, and Gainwell probably still would have been running. But Jonnu completely whiffs on the corner, and instead I think it's like a 1 yard run, maybe. It should have been a big hit. It was actually a really good play call. They're trying to get guys on the move, trying to get, like, say Amalo had a really nice kick out block on one of the shotgun runs on the 12-yard one for Warren. They're trying to get guys on the move, but it looks a little weird still. Guys aren't necessarily running the right angles. Fautanu is like such a great mover in space, but doesn't take like great angles yet. I think that's been an issue. We don't even need to talk about the 4th and 2 from the 8, do we, Chris? I mean,
no. By all means, you can talk about it if you like. Alan and I were just like, that was good.
I mean, one, why is it Kenny Gainwell? With all due respect, good player. It should be Jaylen. 2, why is Jonnu Smith being asked to down block on Greg Rousseau?
Great question.
What is the point? Like, what is the point of Jonnu Smith in inline blocking at all? He's just, you have 2 better guys to do it. I don't understand that. And on that play, you had Darnell running the route. Are you kidding me? Like, if you just flip Darnell and Jonnu, I mean, it maybe works. So there's like different things. I think schematically, that's something I think that is frustrating. I do think the Arthur Smith offense in general kind of asks like a lot of these guys and asks them to make some really hard blocks. So the run scheme in general, I think, is a little limited, but I do think right now you just kind of see guys whiff on some blocks. The timing's not always crisp. Like, it doesn't look in sync all the time. But then you go back to the Chicago tape and boom, there it is. Like, everything's working. And I know Chicago had, their top 4 inside linebackers down, but the blocking up front was really crisp. So it's kind of weird. The timing was odd this week. I think Buffalo blitzing and just stacking the boxes, they had zero respect for the passing game, really hurt the run game. And then on top of that, I thought you just had some weird personnel utilization where I don't understand some of it.
There's sometimes I don't get it either. I think there's sometimes the Steelers sort of overthinks or galaxy brain sort of what they're trying to do with the run, with a few things, but especially in the run game. I think there's sometimes they try to do things the hard way when they don't need to, and that's just not what I think is sometimes the smart thing, especially when you have a young offensive line. I think sometimes, kind of like what the defense is saying, hey man, sometimes simpler is better. Simpler, let them play fast, let them play hard, let them attack. And I think the Steelers could use a little bit more of that in this run game. But at the same time, I also want to point out that the Bills did something that I thought was smart in this game. They sold out to stop the run. They blitzed, like you said, they were blitzing corners, they were blitzing everybody. And like you go back and you watch the first few steps of the linebackers were to the line of scrimmage. They were waiting. They were saying, Aaron Rodgers, please beat us with intermediate and deep throws down the field and hurt and make us pay for that. And the Steelers couldn't, and therefore you had a bad day for the offense. And I think that's where the Steelers are banking on Aaron Rodgers to solve that when that happens, to take advantage of those moments. And so it's a bit of a mix from, yes, these are all things that can be fixed by the run offense. They can be sharper in their game, and they need to be sharper. And I think that they will be sharper. But the key to this offense was the balance to make them a better unit. And there's been times this year where they've struck that balance. And when they strike that balance, it's hard to bring down Jaylen Warren one-on-one in space. It's hard. Same thing for Kenneth Gainwell. It's hard to cover Darnell Washington when he gets a step on guys. When DK Metcalf catches the ball in space, he is dangerous. There's ways to do it, but I think that it takes having that balance there for both of these units to work. Because the passing game, if it starts to catch on fire, like if it starts to catch heat in the game, they need the run game to come in, because as soon as the team focuses on it, there's ways to tamper down this passing attack. We've seen it happen. But if you're doing both at the same time, that's when the guessing games start, and that's when you can be a better version of yourself.
And I don't want to completely say it doesn't matter, but I'm going to be real. If the passing offense is as bad as it's really been since the Chargers game,
yeah,
I'm not sure it matters how much they run the ball. Like, you need a at least below average passing attack. They've been so bad passing the football against the Chargers. They were fine against the Bengals, but they were so bad passing the football really against Chargers, Chicago, and this week that it's just hard to have a coherent offense when you can't throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field. Like, it just is. So you need, I completely agree that it works off it, but I think the Steelers offense, kind of the old adage is, oh, you run to open up the pass. I actually think the Steelers need the opposite to happen right now. Is the passing game has to open up the run game.
I agree.
I really think that. So we're talking about the run game, and there are definitely things to improve there, but they're just not going to have the math numbers if this passing game doesn't improve. They're just going to be outgapped. They're going to be, there's going to be 9 guys in the box when 7 or 8 blockers. They're just not going to ever win the math in there. And what you really want to is, you're always probably going to have one guy in the equation not blocked, but that's because you anticipate your running back beating that guy. Well, Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell aren't always going to break 2 or 3 tackles, and that's what ended up happening against Buffalo. So right now, they really need this passing game to open up the run game, because the run game is going to get stifled more and more until they can really make these linebackers think for a second and have to defend every blade of grass behind them. So, because right now, I mean, you looked at how Milano played that, how Shaq Thompson played it. Those guys weren't scared at all of just, a slipple slant hitting 10 yards behind them. Mm-hmm. They were just flying downhill with with really nothing in the world to worry about. So the Steelers passing offense, I think, has to improve in that area to open up the run game right now, because the run game is, I think, hurting because of the lack of passing attack.
Agree. It's that balance that needs to happen. That's why we led with the passing attack in this game. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Derrick Harmons is out for a second straight week, according to Mike Tomlin. What's going to be the impact for that on a rushing defense that struggled against the Bills and now is facing Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and the unit that crushed them in the playoffs? We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, remind you this show is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reading and reacting to real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. The Steelers have already moved from +6.5 to +5.5 odds against the Ravens this week. Player props update as the guys heat up, and you can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and so much more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Nick, rough news for the Steelers. Derrick Harmons out for a second week with that knee injury. And coming at the kind of the part of the season where you were hoping to see the improvement of the Steelers' run defense against the Bills and the Ravens, even the Bears, where he got injured, though he did play in that game. That was the last game that the game that he got injured in. So looking at that and looking at what they got up against this, is it possible for this Steelers defense to find some chutzpah, some collective improvement, and actually stop the Ravens' run game, or at least slow it down enough so that they can play the game that they want to play in Baltimore? Or is this about to just be a lost cause that there's nothing they can do about?
I mean, there's things they can do. I think a lot of it actually does kind of come down to guys playing. Like, for a lot of the stuff, I feel like I can put a schematic finger on it and say, hey, you could do this. And sure, the Steelers can like send more blitzes and try to be a little more aggressive in that way. So you can try and take some pressure off it. I thought a lot of their run struggles against the Bills were you just got your butt kicked. Like, I truly think they just got their butt kicked. Like, TJ Watt was getting handled by Jackson Hawes, a tight end. And
we talked about
that. And maybe we should have this discussion. The last 3 weeks, teams are getting the Steelers in the nickel, and they're running at 90. Like, that is the weird thing. Early in the year, it was all the talk of they're running away from him. Well, now they're running out.
They are running to him.
And TJ, it hasn't even necessarily been him not being able to stack and shed. He's just kind of going upfield, not keeping the edge and holding the edge, and teams are just pounding it right off that right tackle. And I think TJ has to maybe alter his approach a little bit. Certainly can't be just sprinting upfield and trying to get TFLs all the time. But they ran right to that right side the whole time. Y.A. Black, TJ Watt, Joey Porter Jr. Those three men got absolutely abused on against the Bills. And Black, I thought, had a really, really bad game, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Y.A. Black played really well. Broderick Martin didn't play very well, and his time at nose tackle. Keanu Benton, I think you just have to accept with Keanu Benton like 3 times a game, he's just going to get driven straight back into the lap of Patrick Queen. Like, I just think it's going to happen. You take the highs of this pass rusher and you just have to kind of work it out. But what can they do? I think they could send more blitzes. If PQ is playing, I think they kind of need PQ. I know I
agree. It's a lot bigger of a deal than people realize.
Right. I know he's not a great stack and shed guy, but he's very fast, and he can be explosive to where he can throw the running back off the track and try and lead him into somebody. I think they can be aggressive there. I also think when you look at what they can do up front, maybe you just, instead of staying and just staying static, you start slanting guys. You just kind of start moving the front, stemming fronts a little more, trying to get guys a little free just to create some havoc and some penetration so the run concept doesn't hit fluidly. And so I think that's something you can look at for sure. I think guys like Joey, like Porter, has to tackle better. I thought there were times against the Bills he did. I thought there were other times he looked out of place. So there's things there as well. But I think they can be a little more aggressive if they want to be. So I would expect maybe some more run blitzes. They haven't really pulled out a bunch of their run blitzes recently because teams kind of cracked that code early in the season, but maybe you bring it back a little bit. So it's not completely hopeless, but I think you need a really good game from Y.A. Black. I think you need TJ Watt to change his approach against the run right now. And then I think you need your secondary guys to tackle at a high level. And if PQ can't go in this game, Cole Holcomb and Malik Harrison have to be what they are, which is hammers downhill, and they have to wreck shop. That's what they have to do. They have to be what Landon Roberts was, which was fearless, come in, destroy a pulling guard, destroy a tight end, destroy somebody, throw something off the track, be physical, set that tone so Peyton Wilson can be the free-flowing linebacker that he wants to be.
I really do think, like the passing of it, there are manageable fixes in this run defense. I know it looks bad on the whole when you look back at the yards, but when I look back at it, the Bills had 8 explosive run plays, and each time I could see like, hey, the D-line got whipped here. You know, TJ needed to be better in this moment. But on the whole, I think that there is a chance, that especially I think there's, and I'm going to explore this more with Kevin Ostreicher of Locked On Ravens for tomorrow's crossover Thursday episode, maybe even more with Jenna Harner too. Last week, I called for the Steelers to trust the front 7, play the 2 high safeties, and just see if you could get Josh Allen to make mistakes. Early on, that plan worked, but then as the game went on, they eventually got run over. What if this week it's the opposite that they need? What if they say, you know what, Joey Porter Jr., if James Pierre's good to go, but Asante Samuel, because Darius Slay's gone. And I mean, also, I think that's the first time ever that we've seen a bus ticket work in live time, like real time in a season. We gave a bus ticket, and a few weeks later he's gone. That's, not to make fun of him. I thought that was, someone brought that up. It was like, wow, your bus ticket came true, and I was like, huh, it did. But again, trust that those guys, I know the most of this season, when they've gone up against the Chargers, they got chewed up. When they did this against the Packers, they got eaten alive. Same thing for the Bengals. But this Ravens receivers unit is not all that. Do you say, you guys go live on islands, we're going to commit to stop the run, or do you try to come up with that 2 safety approach and try to collectively win up front?
I think you have to stop the run, and if Lamar beats you, he beats you. Listen, Lamar hasn't shown to be the same Lamar Jackson this year. He just hasn't. Okay, so I think the thing with Lamar is he's clearly hurt right now. I mean, you can watch him. If everybody watched that Bengals game, even when he ran, it wasn't the usual Lamar dynamic, breaking tackles, juking people out, creating insane explosives off sack avoidance. Like he's just not the same Lamar. And then when he's forced to throw in the pocket, he's got miscommunication. He's overthrowing guys right now. Like it just doesn't look the same. And some of that's not him. Some of it's Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers struggling. They've had some drops. Isaiah Likely had a terrible fumble in that game, literally going into the end zone on a great play by Lamar. Like this Ravens passing offense doesn't have a ton of issues in terms of true talent, because I think all those guys I named are pretty talented. It's just not clicking, Chris. And it's not clicking against the Jets and the Bengals. Bad defenses, man. The Ravens have had to go into rock fights with New York, Cleveland, losing to Cincinnati. I mean, you look at the win streak, the 5-game win streak they had, and they got into rock fights with some bad football teams, man. This is a winnable game for them. And so I think what you have to do is if you can slow down Derrick Henry and try and let the pass rushers pin their ears back and go after Lamar and try and get some strip sacks, try and get some really nice kind of turnover production, I think that's where you can really try and win this game on the margin. So I think you have to. And if you start to get beat over the top, so be it. You cannot let Derrick Henry run on you all game.
I agree with you. Force Lamar Jackson to beat you with his arms and not with the legs, because we know that they can do that. You see it. That's how this team is built to win. Baltimore, that is. I think this could be the week to say, like, you know what? Do what the Bills kind of did. We're going to set out to stop your run. Beat us over the top with Zay Flowers. Because personally, Nick, and I want your thoughts on this too, I think Joey Porter Jr. tackling has been suspect, but I think his coverage skills have taken a serious step up this season. And if he and Pierre or Samuel and Ramsey and Duggar can just be solid, I think that's enough to kind of limit the Ravens and what they want to do in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Zay Flowers matchup maybe isn't the scary one. more scared of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
to me, because especially if PQ doesn't play, I mean, you're talking about Malik Harrison in space against Isaiah Likely. I think that's a scary advent of a matchup. And I think you saw the Bears be able to really use Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet 2 weeks ago at a very high level. Even the Bills got some really good play action bootleg stuff going with like Jackson Halls and Dawson Knox. It's been an issue for the Steelers. And I think it is going to be an issue if you can't have Patrick Queen in there. Now maybe you have some different answers for that. Maybe you play some more like big nickel in that case, and you kind of walk Ramsey down a little bit, and you're going to hit me over the head for saying this because we were saying this a lot earlier. Maybe you get some Chuck Clark snaps because of that.
No, not Chuck Clark. Not anything but but I feel you.
You know, if they're going to have to go big nickel, that is, because I just don't think you can trust Cole Holcomb and Malik Harrison in space. I just think that's a real bad matchup for them. I think the corners can actually match up fine. I think it's just how do you deploy the safeties, the linebackers.
What about this? What about this? Sorry, my bad. Peyton Wilson on one tight end, Jalen Ramsey on another.
Sure, I can get down with that because if I have Malik Harrison and Cole Holcomb in there as a rotation, I just want them to just be like solely focused on being hammers. And then I want Kyle Duggar to be comfortable coming down and being that Sean Elliott role, which is, hey, come in, just smash the run, man. Like, we know you can do it.
And he's done that, I think, a few times. He's looked good when he's done that.
Right. The one thing I think, that is a little like this game would have been nice to have Deshaun Elliott because I think Ramsey's force in the run game is like kind of missed sometimes when he's playing 12 yards off the ball at the least. So I think they miss him a little bit around the line of scrimmage. But I do think there's ways they can utilize this. I think in the passing game, the scariest part of it is Isaiah Likely, to be quite honest with you. He's killed them in the past. He should have had like a huge game against the Bengals. He just had that fumble, and then it just seemed like Lamar was like, yeah, you ain't getting the ball the rest of the night. Which, like, okay, fair Lamar, but also he was cooking Barrett Carter. So I think that's going to be like the big matchup to watch. But let's see how they try and do that, because if they can get them into like 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 11s, where it's, hey, Lamar, you have to beat us. Hey, these receivers have to beat us. That's when I think the Steelers can get into opportunities to get those turnovers and hopefully put the offense on short fields and get points.
I think there's a formula here. I think there's a blueprint. There's a way to do this. We'll talk more about that when we go over our we'll talk more about that when we go over this with Kevin Ostreicher for tomorrow for Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We got a lot more episodes coming your way, but of course, Nick will probably be breaking this down for PennLive.com. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. Let people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Farabaugh Blue Sky Nick Farabaugh. Make sure to check out the stuff at PennLive.com/Steelers and check out the YouTube channel, The Steelers Blitz on PennLive.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. My handle is always at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com, including my Stars and Skulls grades, my update on the quarterback outlook for the upcoming NFL draft, and a film study on what's been wrong with the Steelers' run defense and how they need to fix it moving forward. All here for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and all here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We'll catch you tomorrow on Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.